What is up, guys? Welcome to Truth and Transparency. Woo! Good morning. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Okay. We're going to jump right into it. Again, at some point, you're going to have an opinion about this video. Thumbs it up, thumbs it down, make yourself known. First of all, this is that press release. I mentioned it yesterday. Want you guys to take a look at the date here and see the Rambo style knife. We all remember that they posted it. That was November 22nd. And we want to show right here. December 6th. Let me zoom in here for you guys. That incident. I want to read, I'm sorry, December 5th. I want to read exactly what this says because it matters in my opinion. Make it a little bigger. There you go. December 5th, 2022. Using tips and leads, investigators have identified an incident involving Kaylee at a local business, which may have been the stalker reference she made to friends and family. In mid-October, two males were seen inside a local business. They parted ways, and one male appeared to follow Kaylee inside the business, and as she exited to walk toward her car, the male turned away, and it did not appear he made any contact with her. Detectives contacted both males and learned the two were attempting to meet women at the business. This was corroborated through additional investigation. Okay. Ready? We've gone through 314 reports. Have I read one report, one, of anybody being interviewed and saying anything about, I was at this establishment and yeah, we were trying to pick up chicks? I have not. So that means that this would have been handled by somebody else. Again, detectives contacted both males and learned the two were attempting, and I'm telling you, the only way that this information could have gotten to the right hands or that it's actual accurate information is to have gotten this from Bethany or Dylan, okay? Because supposedly the people that were there, everybody else would be dead. So Dylan, Bethany, this was supposedly Xana was in the car. If this is in fact, this is the situation at Winco or whatever. But so when they say detectives contacted both males, what detectives? Those would not be Moscow Police Department. There's no report. Detectives contacted both males and learned that the two were attempting to meet women at the business. This was corroborated through additional investigation based on available information. I love when they say that word. Whenever you see stuff like that, that's when you need to have, like, this is like a disclaimer, okay? Hey, we actually have other information, but until you find out that we have that information, based on available information, detectives believe this was an isolated incident and not an ongoing pattern of stalking. No evidence suggests the two males were involved in the murders. Now, allegedly, supposedly, one of these males is who Ann Taylor listed as an alternate perpetrator based on Hippler's order. I'm just reading between the lines. So but now what I was told is that one of these peeps, I was told one of these peeps was light skinned black. Well, that would be Demetrius is light skinned black. Okay. Okay. Who the hell hollers at somebody like goes up to the, yo, can I get your number? Like that's like so 1997. You know what I mean? Let me get your TikTok, baby. Let me get your TikTok. All right. All right. So what I've been doing is, and people are going to be like, that's nuts of you to do. That's fine. But I've been going through like something like this report. See everywhere where it says this K and D person, right? I've been going through the discovery and making my own version unredacted. And because it matters, because I'm making a list of who was interviewed by who and when these so-called follow-up interviews would have happened. For example, Jack Showalter, there is not a single report of him being interviewed. The only thing that happened was he called, left a message, Hathaway calls him back, and that's that, whatever that blurb is on November 14th. So all these interviews with what I would think would be relevant people, where are they? Well, that's why I'm like, we need to get Idaho State Police's discovery. So continuing on. Right. As you can see, this picture is from when the cars were already taken out. Okay. All right. So I wanted to pull out this and start here because I just want to show you guys something with the whites. We've all listened to Linda Lane. And what we need to start considering is what noises were actually coming from the whites. Okay, when you look at a map, the whites are way closer to Linda Lane than 1122 King Road is, in my opinion. Okay. The whites way closer to the Linda Lane footage to be able to hear than 1122 King Road. So when we're listening, basically the Linda Lane camera and how it's pointing out to the parking lot, right there, if it was like but that camera footage would have been from 4:00 in the afternoon or noon, you'd be able to see the whites. So we have to start filling in these gaps of times with when we're hearing sounds from the Linda Lane footage. And you'd want to go through this and what these people are saying. And everybody's talking about being over there at the whites. There's a party. So put that in your back pocket. That all these sounds are coming from 1122 King Road. So here, this kid wanted to come forward, and he said, again, he wrote this up. This was on 4/12/2024. Let me make sure I have the right report. Okay, yeah. On Friday, April 12th, 2024, I met with KD at the Moscow Police Department, reference a tip that he had called in during this investigation. Well, what's the date of the tip? Wherein D said he was with some of the victims the night before the homicides and wished to provide his whereabouts. Okay. So what I see from something like this is Ann Taylor's getting on it and she's like, where's this tip? Would you follow up with this? That type of stuff. Because look at the date here. He wrote up 4/12. Okay. 4/12. The same day, Payne, that he says that he goes and does this, is he's going to contact this KD person who is friends with the victims and who was with the victims. And This would have been way back in the day. Think about this, in November of 2022, that you are, hey, I was with them. I can provide, I'll answer any questions type of thing. That's why I think it's interesting when Payne doesn't write what the date of the tip was. It's telling to me. Payne thinks he doesn't have to. Okay, well, since his memory fucking blows, as we've seen on the stand, I don't recall. I don't know. He may want to change his reports, because I'm going to tell you what I've learned in life is that when you actually write something and put date with it when you're writing it, it really helps. Really helps you remember. I think they teach you that. I know that they taught us that in criminal justice in college. They taught us a lot in college. Those books that we had to read, can you imagine they would actually have, like, while reading a book? Why did you read that book? What was that book on? What were those classes about? Oh, yeah. Processing a crime scene and stuff like that. I mean, wow. Do you think that those books just like showed me pictures? Ridiculous. So he doesn't put down the date telling to me. My opinion, though, this was an early tip. So he began asking this KD guy to tell me what his background with the victims was. This kid told Payne that he hung out with Xana frequently during his freshman year of college. So right there, during his, so I was able to say, okay, KD, it's a boy. We had a baby boy here. Baby boy. This perfect. Yeah, he hung out with Xana during his freshman year of college prior to Xana dating Chapin. Katie told me he was in the circle of the friends with the other victims and casually saw Funk in the fall of 2022. When he said casually saw, okay, that means sleeping together. Okay, that's code word for sleeping together. Casually saw, just so you guys know. That's AKA banging. And that F is funk. How funky is your chicken? How loose is your goose? So casually saw. So this KD guy was hanging out, casually having sex with Bethany in the fall of 2022. And I said, oh my God, fall of 2022. That's this year, that's the year that we're talking about here. Okay. KD later told me he spent the night with Funk on approximately 3 prior occasions. Okay. He remembers his sexual encounters. I asked KD if he remembered any of the victims telling him about any strange occurrences. He told me he did not. Well, then why the hell are you coming forward? What do you want to talk about? I asked him if he went to any of the parties. He said he told me he did at the house, and that there were only roughly 20 people at the parties when he went to the parties. I asked Katie if he and the other party attendees would have noticed someone unwelcome in the party. Katie told me they would. They totally would have. And that did not occur at any point when he was at those parties. I asked KD to tell me what he remembered about what he did the day prior to the homicides. Are you kidding me? You were asking this dude almost 2 years later to tell you about the night before, right? Well, Katie told me that he went to the 1122 King Road the morning of 11/12, so that's Saturday, at approximately 10 in the morning. I have as Xana was calling people and they were beginning to party at 11. So he went there at 10, which is an hour before, which is interesting, to have a couple of drinks with the residents prior to going to the football game. This kid said that they all went to the Whites for a party prior to going to the football game, or the football tailgate, rather. Katie said that they left that party and went to the football tailgate at halftime. See how he says they? He doesn't say he left and went to it. They. So Katie said that they left that party and went to the football tailgate at halftime of the game. He was unsure what time and stayed out in the parking lot. I asked KD what he did after the tailgate. Well, wouldn't you want to clear up? Like when you say like they, are you talking about like they as in the 1122 King Road residents? Like who all went to the tailgate? How ridiculous. I asked KD what he did after the tailgate. He told me that the victims all left after the tailgate. And he went back to blank, 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 his fraternity. Whoopsies. I asked KD what he remembered about the next morning. Well, why wouldn't you ask him what happened after that? The football game was over like way hella early. There's a huge part missing here, but whatever. I asked D what he remembered about the next morning. You didn't ask him. Oh, he said he went to sleep. He just got food and went to bed. Okay. Why in the world would this person ever come forward if he just went to bed? You got to be kidding me right now. You got to be kidding me. D said he ate some food and went to sleep for the night. Everybody seemed to do that. I asked D what he remembered about the next morning. Katie said a fraternity brother woke him up around noon. Everybody woke up at noon to check on him since he stayed at 1122 King Road prior and the vandal alert had been issued for homicide there. Oh, well, then it couldn't have been at noon that happened. Okay. Does everybody understand this? That vandal alert about a homicide did not go out at noon. So like, but I get it. He's trying to recollect something. How many, you should have hit me up earlier, buddy. When I put my little tip in. What's up, buddy? Good seeing you, my man. Good seeing you. So he said that he was woke up by one of his fraternity buddies, okay, to check on him. Now, KD said from then on, he and his fraternity brothers stayed in the house together until they all left town the next day. Most important sentence right there. They all got out of Dodge. Like, boop, get me out of here now. I asked him if blank told him anything about what happened. He said she did not, and he did not ask about it. Wow. You were casually banging this chick and you didn't ask her, hey, oh my God, are you okay? Nothing else. All right. Well, now check this out. Next report here I want to point out is, again, Payne's just sitting at his desk, writing it up. All right. Same day, 4/12/2024. And here on Thursday, April 11th, 2024, I requested assistance from MPD campus officers with locating information on PU, a person named PU, who had called a tip into the FBI tip line stating he worked for UI security and had found knife packaging, but no knife. How would you know if something was knife packaging? That's my first question. When I get my stuff from Amazon, it doesn't say on the box that Amazon sends it to me. It doesn't say like paper, ink, staples, whiteout, knife packaging. What the? You guys, this is hilarious to me. Some of the stuff you just gotta I'm like, knife packaging. Dildos, dildo packaging, vibrators, lube. Come on, man. Your packages don't say that shit on the outside. Wow. Knife packaging. Come on, man. I love when my stuff comes in bubble wrap. So does my kid. People are listening at work like, there's Lana at it again. Okay, so here, this knife packaging. Officer Rosinski requested contact information for you. That's his last name. So PU. What an initial. PU, get over here. From UI Security. However, guess what, guys? Their record showed that you never worked for UI Security, nor did they have any contact information for him, period. Okay. Officer Rosinski also advised he looked for you in TLO, but could not locate any information for him. You guys, who are these people that think that they can just call the FBI tip line, okay, and just make names up, make themselves up? Okay. Isn't that wild, though? Or is Rosinski and them just not good at finding PU? You know. Okay. Ann Taylor reaches out. Because her client was arrested. And Ann Taylor was interested in getting a hella information on like emails and stuff like that. Like constantly, she wanted to get all these emails between the department. Okay, so Brett Payne types up another report here, and now remember what this is leading up to. This is leading up to the 2024 motion to compel in May. Okay, so this is leading up to that, and Ann Taylor wants emails that are between the department, anybody who's emailing each other. And so here, Payne says that this is email discovery batch. On Thursday, April 18th, I booked a thumb drive into MPD evidence containing emails from the following personnel in response to a discovery request. Well, a discovery request to be by who? Defense counsel. In this case, as of April 2nd, 2024. Alex Jenkins, Aaron Morris, Brett Payne, CM. I think it's interesting that this CM person's name has to be like redacted. Anthony Dollinger, Dustin Blaker, Eric Warner, KP, James Fry, Joe Savadering, Jacob Tisdall, KSMA, Jonathan Rosinski, Shane Gunderson, and TS. There are more emails pending conversation to PDF. These emails will be booked into evidence upon conversation. Okay. Well, when I was going through this, guess who had no emails? Like when they were trying to look up this person's name, Nate Rosendahl had no emails during this batch. Well, during, I think, a period ever. I'm still double checking on that. Okay. Here it is. So May 7th, he writes this up. And this is a list of the second email dump. On Tuesday, March 7th, 2024, I burned the following emails totaling 2,991 emails to a disk. Who the? Martin, Barrett, Smith, Dollinger, Hathaway, Vargas, Fox, Fry, Mowry. These emails were saved by each officer and then converted to PST files, PDFs in a secure file. I copied these emails from that file and burned them to this disk. Sign me up. Oh, well, Payne wanted to point out that something happened here on May 10th, so Wednesday, May 8th. He writes this report on May 10th, though. I was notified by the Latah County Prosecutor's Office that the audio portion of my interview with CT did not appear to be working as it was provided to them. Evidence custodian also stated he could not get the audio stream to work on the recording. I logged into Vision, whatever the program is. The program used to record interviews at MPD to ascertain why the audio stream did not get downloaded. After attempting to re-download the interview, I learned that the audio recording for the interview room did not work. I reviewed the footage and could see where I flipped the audio switch on prior to the interview. In addition, I ensured both audio and video streams were downloaded for the duration of the interview. However, it appears that the microphone recording system did not function and did not record any audio for this interview. Again, curious who this is, curious what's the date, okay, of this interview, because we don't get any of that information. Because then wouldn't you want to go back and check to see, okay, let's go back and check to see on that date if we did any other interviews, if they would not be there? How do you think they found this out? The defense. The defense was interested in listening to this, clearly, this interview. And it doesn't have any audio. So go ahead and put the initials CT. T is a very short name. Again, more emails. On Friday, May 17th, I downloaded the final batch of emails from the current MPD employees. This is the current employees. The emails had been converted and stored on a secure drive where I downloaded them from. Then he says Officer Noonans was the only person who had emails in this batch. Oh, because Officer Noonans finds his old notes. Okay. Now, 5/28/2024, literally the day or two before Payne is about to testify, he writes up this report. It actually goes with a report that was seen earlier. And Payne reaches out on Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. I contacted JD via telephone to clarify whether or not he ever sought counseling help through the University of Idaho. Well, if you go back in the reports at the beginning, one of these people comes forward from the counseling center and saying that JD went to them talking about like suicidal stuff. Now, unless this is another JD, but here Payne wants to follow up with him out of the blue 2 days before this motion to compel. And we got mega turning green here. Katie, welcome. Katie, welcome. Karen, happy Monday, my firecracker. I tried to do 8 towards your project, but failed. I'm not texting. Donate. I got it. I tried to 8. You tried to eat my project, girl? That was awesome. I'm not tech savvy, but I'm donating here and now. Love you, Dollface. Oh, firecrackers for all. Let's wake up a little bit. Karen, $1,999.99. Cassie, 3 months being a member. Karen wants 10 other people to join in her green status. Give it up for Karen. Karen, thank you so much. Fuck shit. Thank you. Look at that. Boom. Boom, Karen. Karen, thank you for eating my project. So Payne out of the blue calls up and says, "Hey," and he told me that the only support he ever sought was academic help due to his difficulties with academic testing. Like, who doesn't have academic testing problems? Everybody does, because the teachers, they teach you one way and then test you another way, which is absolutely pathetic. You're gonna test me like you teach me, or get a new profession. Period. Don't tell me to go read the books and read these chapters, and then have your test be nothing on the books and chapters. Okay. So I stand with Decor here. He told me that he did not seek any mental health help or emotional counseling prior to the homicides. He only sought it after. Okay. And it was all private stuff. But that time when Officer Payne basically is sitting here, okay, going through a whole bunch of shit, like this motion to compel, man, he probably was shitting bricks. All right. He has no idea what Ann Taylor's going to ask him, you know? Now, on Tuesday, May 28th, 2024, I was notified by City of Moscow IT manager that the last batch of MPD emails had been converted to PDFs. These emails were from employees who worked for MPD at the time of the homicides, but left MPD in the subsequent months. Okay. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want. Give me this. This is what I want. Let's get a little timeline on people when they were leaving. Oh yeah, look at that membership, baby. Love it. True. So on Tuesday, May 28th, here it is. Boom. IT manager. Hey, I got these here we go. This is from employees who worked for MPD at the time of the homicides, but left MPD in the subsequent months. Because there are people that, like, if you actually look at this list, I was like, yeah. There's somebody that I think is really interesting that left on the 12th of December. So here it is. I downloaded the emails from the City of Moscow's email. This is in the archive. By searching all emails sent by the following personnel starting on 11/13. Casey Green. So he left. Casey Green left. Elijah Flattery left. John Lawrence left. I love that name. Johnny Lawrence. Karate Kid. Josh Kimberlin. Ooh, right there. Justin Dean left. And Roger Lanier. At the time that this happened, well, what about Fry? I have it as Fry leaving in April of 2024. So maybe his was already in just because he left way later. So I copied these files onto a CD and booked the CD into MPD evidence. That's the most important one. So Ann Taylor wanting the goods. Wants these emails. Not only does Ann Taylor want emails, okay, I'll take a look. Look at the dates here. So Payne, we know he has a motion to compel right after this. Payne does not write up another report, as you can see, or any report until 7/2/2024. So May 28th, and the next report will be 7/2/2024. And it is for the weather. The weather. Now, he wanted to look up. Payne is On July 2nd, 2024, I accessed the National Oceanic, where am I? Hold on. And Atmospheric Administration's website for historical weather data titled National Centers for Environmental Information. Within this website, I accessed the local climatology data tool and selected the state of Washington to search for weather stations. I located the Pullman Moscow Regional Airport weather station in the search results and requested data for the dates of 11/12 to 11/13. Within this tower data, I selected the following information: daily output, hourly precipitation output, hourly remarks output, and documentation. I completed the above mentioned date range and requested the data to be sent to my department email. Later that day, same day, I received an email saying the data was prepared, and you could just click on the download. I downloaded the file, opened it to my department laptop, and attached it to this case file electronically. The PDF document provided was 19 pages in length. Upon review of the document and the provided information key at the bottom, I was able to determine that portions of the report were reporting on the requested dates. What? I was able to determine that portions of the report were reporting on the requested dates. Okay. Well, isn't that what you asked for? So you're making sure that the information's there that you needed, right? But you didn't do that with anything else. The most pertinent, I love when he says that word, the most pertinent information was located on page 2 and 3. These pages were a report on local climatology data hourly observations. The hours from 14:33 hours on 11/12/2022 until 6:53 hours on 11/13 show the observation of OVC 08 under sky conditions. Each entry also has a single number after OVC 08. On page 10 of the document is a section detailing what these values mean. The following is from the document. Sky conditions. A report of each cloud layer up to 3, giving the following information. Each layer given in the following format. I'm not reading all that. CC blah, blah, blah. CLR is clear sky. FEW, few clouds. SCT, scattered clouds. BKN, broken clouds. OVC, overcast. Overcast. VV, obscured sky. 10, partially obscured sky. 2, 11 is layer amount used in conjunction with coverage code above. Given in eighths of sky covered by cloud. Specifically, 00-08 indicates that the number of octas that cloud layer takes up in the total sky. 00 corresponds to clear. 01 to 02 corresponds to few. Okay. So OVC 08. So let's see if he just comes to his conclusion. 8. And 8 corresponds to overcast. Well, isn't that just up there? So, oh, I'm sorry. What? Broken. Broken and 8 correspond to OVC? Broken? Surprised he just doesn't say what it is when he wants to ascertain what everything else means. There you go. There's the information. You take it what it is. Okay, great. Thanks, Payne. I know what it means. Okay. I just believe that Ann Taylor, when she wrote up her little alibi thing, it was like just saying like there's going to show a pattern of history of him going out there. This is why he would go out there. And so thank you, Payne. Okay. Now, this is my favorite one. This is my favorite one. Ann Taylor was on it. She wanted to know, boom, June 26th, Payne asked, this was written up on the second though, but Payne asked for assistance from the City of Moscow IT manager with determining what logins may have been created for use on MPD computers by other agency personnel. Okay. She wants to know who had access to what. All right. So think about the questions that were asked at the motion to compel. All right. And now after the motion to compel, she gets him on testimony, right? And then after the motion to compel, she comes with these requests. That's how I am seeing it. You know, there would have been some requests, I think, before the motion to compel, but then she's coming with these heavier hitters, which are, okay, hey, there we go. So take a look what she wants here. This dude, the IT manager, told Payne that the following names were created during the time frame of 11/13 to 12/30. So these were there would have been new accounts, and he's blanking them all out. Blank also told me numerous MPD computers have been rotated out since that time frame, and the drives on those computers have been wiped clean. Are you kidding me? I registered Blank's access, the guys access those user accounts and make sure there was nothing case related on them. I spoke to Blank on 7/2/2024, and he told me he had checked those usernames and there was nothing related to those or to this case pertaining to any of those accounts. Okay. Okay, this is good. Look at this. So this is what Payne did on June 20th. So he writes up this report though later. 7/2. Oh, I guess it's still the same 7/2. I received an email containing a voice tip reference this case. I listened to the attached file. The woman stated her name was HH with a phone number of blank. H stated that she had information that would clear Kohlberger of this homicide. Who are these crazy motherfuckers? She did not state what this information was and requested a phone call. Give me a call now. I can free him. On 7/1/2024, I attempted to call H to interview her about her statements. H did not answer, but there was the option to leave a voicemail through the message. Through the message did not state what? Oh my God. On 7/1/2024, I attempted to call H to interview her about her statements. H did not answer, but there was the option to leave a voicemail through the message. Did not state who the number belonged to. These motherfuckers, man. I left a voicemail with my work cell phone number and identified who I was. I requested that H call me back. And at the time of this report, I have not received phone call from H. I will author an additional report if I am able to contact H. You didn't look up who the person was, look up the number. One of my faves right here. Okay. On Wednesday, July 10th, Sergeant Gilbertson and I met via Zoom with Dylan Mortensen and her mom and their attorney. Referenced the green and pink jacket that was tested by the defense counsel. So right there, look at the defense counsel is testing material. Okay. The interview was not recorded. Imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine that. It should be noted that the jacket was initially not collected as evidence and was turned over to the Mortensen family as personal property. The box the garment was in was later returned to MPD upon the defense counsel's request. So check this out. Ready? They were boxing up the rooms. So anything that was in so-and-so's room was labeled like a, let's just say Dylan or Bethany or like a B, like whatever. So here, this pink and green jacket was clearly in her room. But I asked Mortensen if she had seen the jacket in question. Mortensen told me that the jacket did not look familiar at all. And her mother stated the same thing. Mortensen told us it was not uncommon for other sorority members to come to the house and leave clothes to use later. But she also said she did not remember seeing the jacket. Listen, they would have taken the crime scene photos, okay? All the crime scene photos and where things were and scoured through social media to see who was ever wearing something like this. But what room was the green and pink jacket in the night of the murders? Why would the defense team want this jacket? And she's saying that the other question is this: did Ann Taylor turn over? Because remember when Josh Hurwitz and them came in? Did the defense turn over what potentially could have been on this jacket when they tested it? Why would they even call Dylan and ask her about it? Makes sense? There's no reason to call Dylan about this jacket. How would you? The defense doesn't have to tell you what they do, ever. Unless they need to take a piece of evidence, but that wasn't in the evidence room, right? It was something that was turned over to Dylan. Then the defense is saying, hey, we need this, right? So the question is did Moscow Police Department tell Ann Taylor ever that, hey, we don't have that piece anymore? Or, oh, we gave the stuff back to the family, so we're going to have to go back and get that stuff? Like, what was the communication? Where's that documented? You know what I mean? And so it'd have to be earlier before that. Like, there should be like a list of all the stuff that, I mean, it's not like Ann Taylor calls up Dylan and says, hey girl, what's up? It's Ann. What's up, chick? I was just wondering, I think the MPD gave you some material back. I'm gonna need some of that. So I'm just gonna swing by. I'm gonna send, my homie Jay, and he's gonna pick up a couple of those items. Thanks so much, sis. When's a good time? That's just not what happened. Pull camera hard drives received from the FBI. Interesting. Brett Payne wrote this up on July 25th, and it's pull camera hard drives received from the FBI. Items 907, 908, 909. On Tuesday, July 16th, 2024, Special Agent Hill delivered 3 internal hard drives to Moscow Police Department. He delivered them. These drives were prepared by the FBI IT and turned over to Special Agent Hill for delivery. The drives were delivered to MPD and secured in secure temporary evidence storage until they were turned over to me. by the evidence technician on July 25th, 2024. The 3 devices were labeled with the following information: drive ID, pull camera footage, DTD, December 23rd, 2022 to January 2nd, 2023, front entrance. Pull camera footage, December 23rd, 2023 to January 2nd, 2023, Lanson Drive or intersection. And then December 2023 to January 2nd, 2023, Reed entrance. What do you guys think that that's at? I'm going to guess, I would say Pennsylvania. Thoughts? Look at this. 2022, right? That's the date of when they got the, is this the pen trap and trace? I mean, this is camera though. Pull camera footage. So no, it's when they got the approval though to do what? Hey, let's set up a camera. Like, hey, these are from actually like Pennsylvania, and we got their cameras that are like on these different streets. But look at the date on when this is being turned over. 2024. July 2024. Look at that. Now, we're working on we got a deadline coming up here. September 9th, 2024 is going to be the deadline for this discovery. Ann Taylor's like, whoa, hey, Officer Payne's report says 94 samples, right? So on July 25th, I was asked by the prosecution in this case to review my supplemental number 73 to clarify where the 94 samples were in relation to this. Because he only booked 4. And he's like, reviewing my supplemental, and I readily recognized that there was a typing error. Well, there's a lot of typing errors. The sentence reads, in addition, there were, he just didn't, it was supposed to be. And if you go and look at it, it is correct. Like, there's a parenthesis. So I believe it. Talbot took photos of the residence. The error occurred when I typed 94 in total. This was supposed to read 4 in total. I failed to hold the shift key to select the parentheses on the 9. Obviously, that's exactly where it's located. It's 100% accurate. But so you're telling me you made a mistake, right? Well, I see a lot of mistakes in here. Because he's absolutely right. There's way more than that one. So that's that answer everybody's asking. Like 94 samples. No, guys, it was 4. And I believe that there's nothing crazy here. It's just Officer Payne. He's got those little fingies. When he got those little fingies, he's not able to, I don't know, hold down the button long enough. So I don't think there's anything weird about that. I think he made a mistake, but I think there's a lot of mistake. Lots. Okay, this is Brett Payne again, 7/30, 2024. He's following up on a tip of SG. On June 29, 2024, I attempted to contact an SG at blank. Reference tip, G had emailed into the tip line. G claimed to have information about Kober and a man named NT. G claimed to have tangible proof Kober was framed. G did not answer when I called her on 6/29/2024, so I left her a voicemail. I did not receive a return call from G. I attempted to call G again on 7/30. Upon calling, someone answered the phone, did not say anything, and then hung up quickly before I could speak. At the time of this writing, I am unable to contact G. I will investigate further if I am able to get in contact with her. Tangible proof that Culber was framed and that there was proof of a man named N.T. Quacks. Absolute quacks. Okay. On July 2nd, this is when he does it, and he writes up the report July 30th. I sent out an email to the All Police Group, MPD. This group encompasses all current employees of the Moscow Police Department. In this email, I requested all personal log into any workstation they may have used during the investigation and check for anything on the computer that may be of evidentiary value in order to ensure there were no outstanding items. I requested a response before the end of the following week if anything was found. I did not receive a response from any MPD employee, not even just like, on Wednesday, July 31st, I was provided a thumb drive by Chief Dollinger. The thumb drive contained all public information officer, PIO, information for this case to include press releases. I booked the thumb drive into MPD evidence on 7/31/2024. You're going to sit here and tell me that Ann Taylor wouldn't have had this yet? All of those MPD releases? Ann Taylor. On August 7th, 2024, he writes up a report, Brett Payne does, for August, something that he did on August 7th, which was, I requested the following information from Whitcomb, reference of supplemental discovery request from defense counsel in this case. Remember, I touched on this and I'm bringing it back because it matters. Now, Ann Taylor's request 317 and 318. You see those on the left? She was asking for all instant messaging of Corporal Brett Payne with dispatch and all other users for 11/28/2022, 12/16/2022, and 12/20/2022. The request 318 was communications report for all instant messages of Moscow Police Department with dispatch and all other users on 11/13/2022. I'm going to show you why. Well, on report number 1, where is it? There's hardly any radio. There's hardly any CAD radio. It's like nobody's using the radio. That's why she wants 11/13. She wants to know where people were going and coming and when people would have been arriving, and because it's not that clear with what was put together. Later on 8/7/2024, I received the requested documents from Whitcomb and attached them to the Spillman case file. That's what I was looking for. That's the Spillman is number 1. It should be noted there were no IMs matching this request from 11/28/2022. So 1128. Okay. 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 Let's go back to this. Sorry, I was looking for something. It matters with what I'm about to show you. Okay, so what I did is I said, okay, Ann Taylor wanted all communication reports 1128, 1216, 1220. And so what I determined was important because of it was to see anybody that had wrote up a report and was why they were doing something. So if somebody writes a report and says that this is what they did on that day on 1128, this is what somebody wrote up a report and this is what they said that they did on 1216. This is if they wrote up a report and it has something to do with 1220. And so I determined in my brain that Ann Taylor was trying to see whoever said they were doing things, she wanted to see who was ordering that up, who was telling that person to go do that. Does that make sense? So, now we need report number 1. So going back to report number 1. If you go to report 1, and we go to these dates that she's asking for. The first one being 11/29. Well, we can look at this though first. Got it. Okay. I'm going to share the screen with you guys now. Okay. 11/28, 11/28 right here. So Fire Stick, photo printer, Kindle, Fire Stick. See those right there? Okay. See 11/24, the glove. Okay. Let's go to 11/18. Where's 11/18? What was next one? 11, 12, 2, 12, 16. Okay, 12, 16. C. See that? 16, DNA swab, DNA extracts, DNA extracts, nail clippings. Nail clippings, nail clippings, nail clippings. DNA extracts, nail clippings, DNA swabs. Okay, now 12/20. Nothing on 12/20. Now, look at this. This is from Brian's trash. 12/29. H2O bottle, popsicles. This is from his parents' garbage. Dunkin' cup, lollipop stick, Q-tips, flosser, straw, Dunkin' cup and lid, all of this stuff is from the trash. Everything that's on 12/29. Those are bagged and tagged. See all that? See where it stops at 12/29/2022, and then it picks up again at 1/3. So Jesus. Them labs must be able to do some crazy ass shit. Crazy ass shit. Let's go back to the 13th. Right here. So the only thing that got tagged on the 13th was the pictures that the kid took. And then right here, the knife sheath right there. It waited in the temporary storing. And so I have a question. If what doesn't make sense to me is who did it? Hold on. Okay. On November 18th, 2022, I met with Moscow Police Department Property Coordinator TS. S released the following items of evidence to me on November 18th. So I'm going to go back to show you guys this. But we're going to compare and go back and forth. So when you look at this, okay, here we go. On November 18th, I met with Moscow Police Department Property Coordinator, and this person released the following items of evidence to me. Remember I was telling you guys that this couldn't have happened on this day? 11/28. Remember I was talking to you guys about all this in one of my previous lives? Okay. And I said, look at these numbers. And that's like what we were just looking at. And then I labeled them. So I just did the work just to say, okay, hey, then we go to this glove. And then we have this swab. And we have a November 19th swab, November 23rd. Like those are the dates of when those were collected. And then he said, I then transported those items of evidence to Meridian, Idaho, where I turned them over to the Idaho State Police Forensic Services. There is something so wrong with this report. Like absolutely so wrong with this report. Because I told you guys how long it would take to drive there, how long it would take to drive back. And he says that he did this on November 18th. And remember, this is the day that the sheath was driven. Supposedly, allegedly. What's the chain of custody on the sheath? So going back to this, let's look at these dates. And so like see over here to the left, 22M1946. Well, evidence, the first one is 22M2097. So you just go match it up. There we go. And we have 2097. So 2097 right here. See 2097 11 23 2022. And what I have these dates as is those are the dates when you correspond to like when Payne is saying that he's entering something into evidence and he's tagging it. Like that's what that date is. It's not when it would go into the temporary evidence because it's in holding. It would go into when if something needs to dry out or something like that, and then you're tagging it afterwards. So that's why the sheath had a tag on the 14th versus the 13th. They took that in the 13th, but it was in a temporary holding. And then on the 14th, those items all got tagged. Okay, so like all of that's like how it's supposed to be. But what's of interest to me is that when you go to and I think this is why Ann Taylor wanted to talk about this whole glove that was found. Because when you go and you look at where are we? Oopsies. There it is. Okay, when you go and look at this and you do then 22M2100. What's that one? 10010. Right here. 22M-2100. Again on the 23rd. So when you looked at that piece of paper that I just showed you guys, that's why I put November 23rd for the first two. Then on the next item is 22M2060. So those are two blood swabs. So let's go to 2060. And 2060 is located, let's see, it's down here, right there. 22M2060 down here. See DNA swabs. This would have all been done at the house. Then you got, oh wait, hold on, 2060. See the 19th? That's when it was entered in. So the same day that like when they got the video to enter in from the King Road 11112, same day that Maori got that shit, he put that in. It got tagged. So these DNA swabs, they got tagged on 11/19. Okay. And then 2101. Let's see where that leads us. 2101. Oops. Let's see, it's 2104. 2101 right there. See that P? Boom, P. See, last name P. Okay. And then 22M and then 2104 right there. $11.22 or $11.24 2022. That's the glove. Fits like a glove. Okay, those are the items that were allegedly picked up by Dollinger. So I'm going to go back to, I just showed you guys all that. So now go like this. I said I would show my work. This is how I did it. So then I go back to this. Come over here, Hector. Okay, boom. Dollinger. And he says that he writes, this is the day that he writes the report. He writes the report. And he says, though, who's the captain right now? Who's the captain of the police department? Who is the captain of the police department right now? Anybody know? Who's the motherfucking captain? Who's the chief? Who's the chief? Who's the chief of the police department right now? This man. On November 18th, 2022, I met with Moscow Police Department property coordinator so that he would release the following items of evidence to me. Okay. This man who wrote this up he's the man. He's the police chief. Okay. Now, he's the police chief now. He's saying that on November 18th, and what I did my live about before, I said, hey guys, news flash, this couldn't have happened on November 18th. Okay. Because these items, okay, weren't available because they weren't, so on November 23rd, you guys saw when they were collected and tagged. Then on November 23rd, that was collected and then tagged. If stuff needed to be, if it was something that would dry out, it's waiting in the temporary and then you're tagging it. And that's why the tag could actually be like a day or two later, but there would be a paper trail of putting it in temporary. Okay. So then November 19th is that. So I went through and I labeled these and I was like, November 18th day. I said, that's interesting that he did this because you couldn't have done it on that day because the glove, for example, wasn't found yet. You understand? I said, take out these other ones. We all know, okay, Deuce Deuce M 2104, that glove was found, whether it's Payne that found it or Chris McDonough that found it. Okay. They can argue it over it. Okay. Here's Payne's report. Payne doesn't write this up until 1/11. And he says, on November 24th, I collected a black Polar Penguin glove from the parking lot of 1122 King Road. I conducted subsequent investigation by watching the body-worn cameras of Noonan's, the first MPD officer on scene, and looking over the scene photos taken by the ISP forensic team. Well, why didn't you look over? See how he says ISP forensic team? Okay, how about this now? Now I'm going to blow his ass up. Guess who else took pictures? Snyder took pictures. First dude on scene with Noonan's in them. There was 56 pictures taken. Okay. Why didn't he do that? I just looked at the ISP forensic team's photos. None of these sources between Noonan's body cam and the ISP, none of these sources showed the glove was present upon officers' initial response to the scene or during the processing of the scene on November 13th. It is unclear where the glove came from at the time of this writing. He wrote this on January 11th. What do you mean where this glove came from? It is all over the news at that point that Chris McDonough is saying that he found that glove, right? But more importantly, there was pictures then highlighting from the media that glove existed. So I want to show you guys what I mean by that. First of all, this is Officer Snyder's report, 11/13. And these are the photos. Photo 1 was a key on the retaining wall north on 1122 parking lot. Front address. Parking lot. Okay? Parking lot. This is what he was taking pictures of. Vehicle, black Ford Explorer, parking lot. Parking lot. Oh, wait. West side? This is northwest. Front east of address. Front east of address. Why don't you go and look at these? Payne. He was taking pictures of the cars, what was in them. Anyways. So, okay. Where I'm going with all of this is that this date has to be wrong, right? We can all agree with that. This date has to be wrong, or these weren't the items that he transported. And the reason I'm so concerned about it is because there was blood on the glove, right? And there's also other people's it all comes down to, for me, is there any chain of custody issues with where the DNA was extracted from? That was the single source. Male profile that went to Othram, because Othram didn't do that. It was already, the DNA was already extracted. And so the only question I would have is where's the chain of custody to know that that came from that item? Because when you have stuff like this is where the problems come in for me. So this couldn't have happened on November 18th. And then I go as far as to say that this couldn't have happened on November 28th, because then I took the time frame here. And I said he wrote up this report at noon. And you want to know what time he would have been transporting these goods to drive from Moscow to get to the lab, not stopping once, and then basically just like going there and coming back. Do you know how many hours that takes? Let's type it in our phones. Let's take a look. Let's type it in our phones. Not sure if you guys know this, but Pullman Police Department just decided to drop a ton of shit. But when I put it in my phone to go from MPD, Moscow Police Department, to, yep, do that one, directions to ISP Meridian Lab. Oh, let's just look at this. $5 hours and 27 minutes, 5 hours and 14 minutes, okay? So if you take that, he says, I then transported those items of evidence to Meridian, Idaho, where I turned them over to the Idaho State Police Forensic Services. Okay. 5.5 hours one way. 5.5 hours back. You're definitely going to need to get gas on both of those trips, one way that way and one way this way. 15-minute stop. So can we at least agree there that it's 11.5 hours? And then that's giving it no time in and actually dealing with the people at Meridian. Okay. And then you have to get back to write this report up by this time. What I mean by this is if you left at, let's say, 12:01 a.m. to make it fall within, because people are like, Lana, he just made a typo. I'm telling you, he did it on the 28th. He did it on the 28th. It's this. He really means that he did it on the 28th. I'm like, okay, here, let me fuck you up some more. Okay, sounds great. So let's say he got in his car at 12:01 because he has to do this on the 28th to then get back to be able to write this report by this time. It still doesn't make, you still can't do it. It's impossible to do it. Okay? So it wasn't on the 28th. So then it becomes into question, which is these materials matter because there's blood on a glove. And it was actually there. If you go and look, that glove was actually there by the trash can. And Payne does not want to make it seem like it's the trash can glove based off of he makes it seem like it was in the middle of the damn parking lot. Okay? So this report couldn't have been written by this time, and you need to do all of this. Because you said if you're saying on November 28th, this is what I did, you would have had to try to do this at 12:01 a.m. and you're still not going to be able to be back and sitting at your desk to be able to type up a report at noon on the 28th. So, shh. So then therefore all of this comes into question, and this is who is the police chief. And so there's probably an answer out there, and I'm just asking for it. So explain this to me. Everybody's going to interview these people. Here, ask them to explain report 38. Ask them to explain report 38. Because these items were not even collected yet. He couldn't have done this on the 18th, but what did he actually do on the 18th? Why would he think that he did that on the 18th? Like, you're going off of your notes, right? You're going off of your body cam, right? I mean, come on, man. Oh, but then here it is. Watch guard event. Nope. No body cam. Not available. You see this date? 11/28. See that? What does Ann Taylor want? 11/28. What's on this report? 11/28. Suck a dick, bitch. What does Ann Taylor want? 11/28. So this is report 294. Brett Payne wrote up on 8/7/2024. What does she want this right before the deadline? Right before the deadline of the discovery, because the discovery deadline is September 8th, 2024. Okay. And what is she asking for? She wants to know it says there were no IM matching this request from 11/28. There's stuff on the 16th, stuff on the 20th. Then she wanted everything on the 13th. And it said Payne. And then here, this is it. Payne. I am conversation from 12/20/2022 in thread format. Payne. Conversation. My I am. Why would Payne be the person that's doing this? If this is the stuff that they're requesting, why would they have Payne be the person that's doing this? Like, why wouldn't somebody else fulfill this request? I'm thinking that would just show like more of like a Payne thread. So look at the dates. So 12/20, 12/20, 12/16, and then MPD's mobile, MPD IM conversations, MPD. And now let me tell you something. What she's teaching us here is she taught me something new to request in FOIA and PPRs and shit like that. So make a note. There you go. Learn something. All right. Should we call it a day? You guys all, you got your fill? Pretty crazy, right? Pretty crazy. What about these new docs? Yeah, a lot of new docs. I think I'm gonna have to do an afternoon session. I think we're gonna have to do an afternoon session. It's just you guys. Yeah, this is what it looks like when you reverse engineer everything. And the only problem is that what sucks is that, let's say Brian Kober is your guy, right? All of this type of stuff is how somebody that is guilty would get off, would be acquitted. So like all of this type of stuff would lead to, if Brian Kober is the guy, right? That this is how a jury would acquit somebody, because as they should, because can you prove stuff beyond a reasonable doubt if you're showing that this investigation is absolutely wild? Okay, then there's just, you want me to then to convict off of touch DNA. And I'm just saying, that does not mean he's innocent by any means. I'm saying as a juror, if I'm going off of the reasonable doubt standard, is it beyond a reasonable doubt? And based off of this investigation, that's the only thing that, again, that does not mean that he is innocent. That means that what would MPD and Latah County prosecutors be able to get over that hump? And the answer is, in my opinion, no. Again, that does not mean that he is innocent. That just means that you can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. But if that were true, Lana, why did BK get off? Why didn't he get off? That's where I'm saying you got to take him at his word with his plea, you know? Because I'll tell you this, if I did it and I'm Brian and I saw this discovery and I'm some narcissist, I don't plead. We're going to trial. You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you roll the dice with this? That's why him pleading, it's almost like take somebody at their word, because I know that I would never, with a defense team like they had and they were doing, why are you pleading guilty if you didn't do it? Like, it's one thing for a false confession when you're getting bullied in an interrogation room and you don't have an attorney and you just got picked up and stuff like that. But I mean, he was advised, his attorneys advised him to do this, or did they make him sign something because his attorneys were like, you know, this is not our recommendation, but if you want to do this, did Ann Taylor make him sign something and say like, you're going against our recommendation? You know what I mean? I don't know. So I don't know. I don't have those answers. I'm only just looking at these police reports and they're just out of this world. And I think Pullmans are about to blow people's minds with what's attached to the Pullman discovery dump. that dump has like whistleblowers for the government in there, people that were whistleblowing on stuff that on corruption. That's part of the discovery dump. Crazy. And Pullman's is a little different. Pullman's, when you guys go to the site, they basically did anything that has to do with this case, anything that was requested, even if it was from some schmuck that, like, I want your guys' police reports. I don't care what people were requesting. I don't care what these idiots wanted. You know. Ashley, it doesn't matter if you couldn't think that you couldn't fight the fight. Okay, your way out of, like, for appeals with, if you would have actually went to trial, is going to be way higher. Okay, by you not going to trial and doing what you did, who do you? No, you still go fight it, and you show how ridiculously prejudiced you were, the bias, the prosecutable misconduct. You would still go and create a record so that you can then appeal. Okay. But you don't go, this would not be your best avenue to go and say, oh, he took this plea deal because he's about to go do something else. That's the fucking stupidest shit. I'm telling you, that's not how you do it. It's just not. They were creating a very good record, and they were making it very clear with certain things, and they were getting the prosecutors and these police officers, when they were testifying, they were roping them in on things that, you know, then at trial, didn't you say this back then? Didn't you say this back then? Do you understand, from my understanding, that Brian Kober still did not get the grand jury transcripts? So I think some stuff was inadvertently given, but I don't believe that he has his grand jury transcripts. So I've been looking through these documents to see, but if you go and you check out, you want to see where somebody blatantly lies. Lawrence Mowry writing up his reports talking about that he is clicking on global legal demand links to open up emails that he received from people's phone that were victims. That's not where those records came from. And then like, that's just wow. That's just wow. So why would you have Lawrence Mowry going and testifying at a grand jury to something that he didn't do, to something after the fact, like looking at this stuff after the fact? Then we can go ahead and have you test, but you didn't do that then. And Ashley Jennings calls herself out when she says, why did you go and you do that? And Mowry says, because you told me to. So Jennings then knew that she was going to call Mowry to the stand to testify under the presumption to the grand jurors that this man is the one that did all the phone stuff for clocking where Brian's car was, because it was with his phone and shit like that. But he didn't do that. He didn't have anything to do with it until after the arrest of him, like in April. So they would have had to be very creative on how they were going to ask those questions at a grand jury. My question would be to Ann Taylor is, okay, what material did you get in the initial dump? and let's say that it was, obviously it couldn't be these 314 pages. Like you'd want to stop at a certain date that she actually got the discovery. And so you would have all those MPD reports, and it's like, what was your thought process on why you would say, okay, we're going to have a preliminary hearing that both the prosecutor and the defense are agreeing will happen in 6 months? You usually don't do that. So I want to know, would you still make that call? Because they could only present what they would have had in the middle of January of 2023. And if you go and you read all the stuff, they didn't have any. Like, look at all the search warrants that actually are dated after January 20th of 2023. So when you would have had this preliminary hearing, Ann Taylor would have been able to, I can just say this. I was able to, by myself, in a week time, get through every single report. And that was 314 of them. She wouldn't have had 314. And you can only use, okay, preliminary hearing, what information do you think that you're going to use there that you didn't provide to me prior to it? Because you're not going to use the DNA. You're not going to use IgG, right? So you have this PCA that you're going to try to get his arrest off of. Here's, there's probable cause to continue and go on. What did they truly had? They had. So I know that it was a strategic play, and I would just love to ask the question, which is why? And then I'm not saying that it's wrong, especially if anybody would know this, that they could build from January until June when it would have happened. Anything that they develop between then and June, they could then use at the preliminary hearing, right? And if she says, well, no, because you were going to challenge that they didn't even have probable cause, like everything was developed afterwards, maybe that's what she's going to say, so none of that mattered. So she was just looking at it as like, I just got the time because I'm going to be able to go through everything that happened before his arrest, and that's what we were going to be focusing on. So I'm curious. But then there's also the chance that she would have known that they're going to, at some point, try to go grand jury because they'll just get the indictment that way. Even the grand jury had questions because it didn't make any sense. So that's the stuff that goes through my mind, which is if we go back to the beginning and there's actually a preliminary hearing, what could have been presented? And who is going to be testifying? Maury wouldn't have been able to testify. Payne doesn't qualify for hearsay. So who's testifying at this prelim? Because at the preliminary hearing, you could testify hearsay, and Payne at that point wouldn't. You have to have, I think, 5 years as a cop. And if the feds did everything, they're not coming in there. So, again, I don't have those answers. These are my questions that if I had the opportunity to talk to Ann Taylor, this is what I would ask her. And if she's like, we can talk about all that off the record, I would sign whatever. And I wouldn't tell you guys shit. And I'd get my information. Like, because that's my word. If I give somebody my word, I wouldn't, But this is the type of stuff that I'm interested in because I'm interested in our rights. I'm interested in making sure that the people that are supposed to be serving and protecting us are doing just that. They were hoping to get BK's phone data before the preliminary for exculpatory evidence, and Heather's opinion about that. But think about it. if they wouldn't have had it in the 14 days, how can the other side use it? What are they going to use? They were still, what everybody should ask themselves is, why'd they have to arrest this Kraft job? Why didn't they just, let's say, arrest him in June of 2023? Okay. There's one answer to that, and only one answer. And that's money in the university. That should just tell you who's calling the shots. And when Bill Nye, the science guy, said that Bill Thompson was calling the shots, he truly was. And guess who Bill Thompson's calling the shots with? The university. They needed an arrest because of money. Because, and then to think about it in terms of like, but you're willing to risk like, why wouldn't you be demanding and saying in like a, I guess you'd say a powwow, say, listen, guys, we have all eyes on this. You don't understand. So we're going to have to, okay, chalk it up for a semester. We're going to get them right here at the end. We're going to get all of our ducks in a row. We're going to put this all right. But then maybe they're over there saying, hey guys, we've already wrote up a ton of police reports in this case. It's not like we can go back and change these police reports. Okay. But there would have been some powwow room where they're talking about, okay, let's just arrest him right now, but we don't really have probable cause. How are we going to go ahead and say this? How are we going to do this? Because we're not going to use the IGG. So then do we really have probable cause? Like, you don't think that people were talking like that? The state had all the data in their possession. They were just refusing to hand it over. Yeah, but that's my point. With the preliminary hearing, that's fuck the data. Who is going to testify to the data? Who is going to get on that stand and testify to that? Heather, who? Nobody can. Who's going to testify to it? I personally think that they knew what they were doing by saying we're going to go prelim at 6 months later. And I think it's because Brian Kohlberger told Ann Taylor that I'm being framed. I didn't do this. I'm being framed. Then that there's got to be evidence there, or whatever he was being adamant about, versus if he doesn't say maybe certain things and Ann Taylor goes preliminary hearing. Which we're probably never going to know what Brian told his attorney. Okay. But also sometimes it doesn't matter what you tell your attorney. They're doing what they think is in your best interest, right? If he's saying he has no idea what's going on, he has no idea why he would be caught up in this. But remember, all that Ann Taylor had to look at was that probable cause affidavit, and it was like, it said nothing about DNA. She was under the impression that WSU queried cars, and that's how, if you're reading the probable cause affidavit. I think if you go back in time and you have a preliminary hearing, who could testify to any of this shit? Absolutely nobody. There was no Amazon at that point. There was Amazon through potentially the FBI. There was no Amazon warrants or search warrants that the state had drawn up and put in to get anything related to Amazon. If you go and you look at this case, what they had in January of 2023 was nothing. So how would they have gotten a indictment? He was arrested. Now you got it. Now we're going for this indictment, right? Same thing with Karen Reed. They got the indictment because Carrie Roberts lied. Carrie Roberts fucking lied. And so they testified to a grand jury. They lied. Carrie Roberts should be arrested for perjury. Fuck that bitch. Fuck you. I misunderstood the question, Mr. Jackson. You didn't understand shit. You didn't misunderstand anything. You lied. I think if I was Jack Showalter, I'd be reading these reports. I want to call that boy so bad. Jack Showalter, did you call the maintenance guy and ask him to go and check your water? You guys, if I was Ann Taylor, I would have been like, let's take a look at Jack Showalter's phone records. Did we get those? Do we have those? Did he call a maintenance guy? There's no fucking way he called the maintenance guy. There is no way he called the maintenance guy on November 22nd to go check his water. Literally right after the cops sprayed and found that, oh, it's not blood out, it's just rust, so we can't go in because they won't give us the warrant. And then how often do the maintenance men ever contact the police and say, hey, there's these little specks of blood in this random apartment I came in. I know what blood spatter is. You need to get over here. Like, then track all that stuff down. I don't like, for Hitler to say that he's like, well, Jack Showalter, he was out with them that night, and like his DNA and blah, blah, blah. As far as Jack Showalter being a third party, an alternate perpetrator. They lied. They lied to get into Showalter's apartment. In my opinion. Do you know what the probability of that is? It's like a dice. Let's take a dice. You know what the probability is for you to roll a 6 3 times in a row? Not like a 6 and a 3 or a 1, but like a 6 3 times in a row. You know what the probability of that is? So then what's the probability of Showalter, them finding rust and thinking it's blood right outside, being told by magistrate, Megan, nope, you're not getting in there unless it tests positive for blood. You're not giving you a search warrant. It doesn't. That'd be like rolling 1 6, okay? Then the next 6 is, okay, then what are the odds that Jack Showalter calls up the maintenance people and puts in a work order to say, hey, can you go check my water quality? That's another 6 back to back. And then the final 6 would be, then the maintenance men go in there to check the water and then just think to themselves, let me just look all through this bathroom. Man, there's just these little blood droplets around here. You know what? We should call the police because there was that homicide over there. That's the third 6. Probably a 4th in there if you really think about it. Give me a break. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Showalter left on the 14th or the 13th. Okay. He wasn't planning on coming back until after Thanksgiving, right? The only way that that's remotely possible is if Showalter put in his maintenance slip like months ago. Okay. And they just didn't get around to it. And Payne went and visited the maintenance men and said, hey, what kind of work orders do you have in here? I mean, come on. This is insanity. But the point of the matter is that they made up a situation, in my opinion, because they didn't go and get the work order when they would have. Where's the report that you met up with maintenance and it's like, hey, let me see this work order that you have for this apartment. Okay, I got a copy of that. I'm putting that in my police report. Then what's the date that Jack Showalter asked for this to happen? Like all that stuff right there. Because I would be saying to myself, what are the odds that we go over that apartment? We're looking at this kid. We talked to him on the 14th, and then he. And see, then there's Anne that could then use that to say, you guys thought that, you guys lifted what? Cigarettes? You guys tested this? You guys got his phone records, right? Did you put a pen, trap, and trace on that? You're going to put a pen, trap, and trace on Molly, right? You guys get caught in a lie there because the FBI does the door dashing and Molly shit with the subpoena because there was records that came back on November 23rd. Why did you put a pen, trap, and trace on Molly? All of these things. We don't put pen, trap, and trace on people that are witnesses and cooperating witnesses. Unless they say, you can tap my, hey, why don't you tap my phone because this person's going to call me. Brian Colbert is going to call me. Molly's over here saying that she saw a tan sedan. Molly's over here. The geofence warrant would have showed you exactly when Molly's in the area. Payne's writing up a report that's making it seem like Molly's in the area, not during the 15 minutes that I believe the geofence warrant shows. Do you know how many people would have been inside the geofence? How big of a geofence are we talking? There was 4 points for the geofence warrant. There was 4 different locations that they were looking for. And my guess would be one of those had to have been the Jack in the Box, because you'd want to see if Molly's phone actually was in that geofence. Like, that's what I would do. I would put it would have been for her. Yeah. But for the case in general, I don't know. Probably the one sorority. Well, the 2 sororities, then the Sigma Chi sorority or fraternity, and then the house. I just cannot believe that only 2 numbers would be of interest to the police. And Molly's was one of them. What was the other one? The person that was with Molly? You know what? I gotta leave that voice message on Payne's. It's 9:00 there now. I gotta ask Payne. I have so many questions about this glove. Let's talk about it. Dollinger, I want to talk about your report. I mean, I guess we'll just call him. So. William's like, you might want to call the university. Yeah, I heard he's there. But we'll be back later. I'm going to do an afternoon session here with some of the Pullman stuff. I'm going to make some phone calls. I got to fill out a new request based on a piece of paper here. So. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much. You have an opinion. Make yourself known. Thumbs it up, thumbs it down. Thank you so much, Karen. Let me read this. Little Miss Mad Head. Is that it? Is that how it was spelled before? Did you switch the spelling on that? Member for 11 months. Cheers. Mary Holt, this is the place to be if you want facts. Thank you so much. We are trying to. We are trying to. God, my allergies are starting up again. Karen, again, thank you so much for the amazing support. And then I am doing a fundraiser for my independent film for the Idaho4. It's a timeline. The Untold Timeline is the working title. Because everything matters about a timeline. Fuck all this other shit. What they said that they were doing. Let's put it in the right timeline. So yeah, you can find that out on it's on my community page. There's a link. But I need this new software. It'll make it all faster and go ahead and read about it. But I want to put it in as an indie film at the Slam Dance Festival. And the goal date is March of 2026. So, do I have PayPal? Sure do. I don't even know what it is, though. Let me see. What may happen in here? I fucking don't even know. Oh, here. I think that's it. There you go. You like that? Hey, what are you live today? Here, hold on. Hit the link really quick. Or are you like available to come for a second? Thank you. Where is your community page? It is on the channel. It's it'll say like live, it'll say videos, it'll say, if you look at those little tabs, one of them says community, and you hit the community, and then there's where all the posts go. There you go. That link. Okay, yeah, there you go. What is up, buddy?
What up?
What up? What are you doing? I'm good.
No, I was gonna go live after you was done.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Quick question for you: did you look over any of the Pullman stuff?
I just pulled it all, and I started looking through. There's a lot of, you kind of like got to look through the weeds. There's a little bit, yeah, little bits here and there, but there's a bunch of FOIA stuff and all that. But
yeah,
did you find anything interesting?
We're looking into this whistleblower stuff, but
yeah, I just pulled it this morning. Christy told me it was, sorry, Jesus. One of my mods told me it was up and said, then Christy helped me. I didn't even know that they were putting stuff up there, so I grabbed it and uploaded it all. Started looking through it while I was sitting here listening to you. I was looking at it.
Yeah, all that matters is that we needed this ISP stuff.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
That's what we need.
Big time. And do you think anything's going to come from the FBI at all?
Eventually.
5 years from now?
Well, I think that if we can get Cyree to talk,
yeah.
Then if he, if they want to try to combat what he would say, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But
absolutely. And I'm sure, like, I think you said it, because of what Hitler said, he's going to want to reposition himself to the world as in, no, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Here's the deal. And this is why I said what I said.
Yeah,
to prove himself. I would imagine he would do that.
I also think for everybody out there, if we get the ISP reports right, and we have the Moscow Police Department's reports right, and we're gonna get the stuff that little people did, like the Latell County Sheriff's Office did a couple things. But once we get that, then it comes down to process of elimination. Then it comes down to, okay, if Moscow Police Department did these parts, and Idaho State Police did these parts, okay, then we're able to say everything else had to have been done by who?
Exactly. Process of elimination. Yeah. Good point.
So that's all. I mean, once we get ISP, then you're able to determine.
It's gonna pinpoint who the leader of the pack was, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how Ann Taylor did it. I mean, that's what would make sense in my brain to do it. It's like, if we're looking for something and we don't, and the ISP, reports aren't there, and Moscow Police Department has no idea what we're talking about, right? Then, yeah, clearly the FBI has it. And so if we can show, which I'll be able to once I get the ISP files, I'll be able to show exactly. They were called in right away, but what were you called in for?
Right.
Like, you just don't say, "Hey, we need help." You don't know what we're doing. Like, what did you?
They brought him in for a specific reason, exactly.
So it's interesting because if you knew that you had a sheath that day, hey, let's wait and see what comes back on this sheath. Like maybe we don't need the FBI.
I don't. Do you think they had a sheath that day? Truly,
I do.
Okay.
I do. I think it's on. If I see Noon's body cam clip,
Yeah.
As long as the time is at 12:05 and not like 12:55, then yeah, I'm in on that. But it comes down to, for me, how the DNA was pulled, off of what product, like, off of what item.
Right.
I'm still not convinced of where. Do I believe that Brian's DNA was there? Sure. Do I know that it's on a knife sheath? No, not right now.
I don't
see that.
If they would have sent the actual sheath off to be tested, I would maybe believe it more, but I don't at all. It's
no fault to Othram. Othram didn't do that part. Othram was just given whatever they were given.
Yeah. They received the swab. They could have swabbed anything. Okay. And I've never believed, when I found out that they didn't send the sheath off, I never believed that they swabbed that sheath.
Well, I think what's her name? Ann Taylor shows that she has no idea what she's talking about when she asked her, "What did you guys swab?" At that hearing.
Yep.
And she states what they swabbed, and she's like, "That's not correct. This is what they said that they swabbed," because she said, like, "Oh, we would have left that for fingerprinting." Exactly. You would have left the button for that you were trying to pick a fingerprint off of that.
100%.
But what's crazy with that is, if you think about it, why would you think there'd be a fingerprint on there if the person was using gloves, right? And then they could say, well, because before they would have ever put on the gloves, they would have handled it. So it's like, okay, well then if you took and then it's talking to somebody that is a forensic scientist to ask them. And I think that's why Ann Taylor said, okay, well, what's the procedure here? Are you going to try to pull, when are you going to try to pull that print? What would it do to affect anything if you've already swabbed the sheath? What would have been the order? And then that's when Rollins said, there's no such thing as like a right order or a wrong order. It just depends on whatever it is. Like it's all case by case. Depends on what it is.
Right.
So
I wondered about the sheath after I got that. There was a clip that came out of Patterson's fiction book that I just wondered. I guess there was a clip that a piece I read of it was Michael Koberger, his dad, running into his best friend Jeremy's mother at the store, and stating that whole piece to her where he said, they didn't find the sheets when they said they did, and it was later on down. And I'm just curious how true, because I know, like I said, it's a fiction book, so just curious how true that could be. That's all.
Yeah, when I think I find it hard to believe that he'd be like just spouting off the mouth and all that. Maybe he just felt like he could trust that woman. I don't know. But I think if you read the probable cause, it says later notice, you know what I mean? Like using like that terminology.
It could be that's how he was reading it. Yeah.
But I would be thinking that there's probably got to be conversation that he would have had with just because Ann Taylor and their team is Brian's attorneys, they're not the family's attorneys. And anything that Brian would be talking to Ann Taylor about, Ann Taylor is not turning around and telling the family.
No.
That's not how that works.
Right.
I mean, even when you tell people like, hey, yeah, no, you can tell them things, blah, 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 a lawyer still knows what they can and can't.
You don't need to be saying this stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I would just love to ask Ann Taylor some questions about, when Hitler was saying things like you can have, researchers and you're not getting through material and then they didn't go and like utilize that if they were on this hunt to find something, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because then my argument to Hitler would have been like, okay, we can use these researchers, right? But like, what researchers are you? I'm curious what resources are there for what she would need, and then you want me to bring people in when there's like this like ridiculous like chokehold on this case, and who are we bringing in? You want me to trust them? Because basically, if you're trying to say that you were set up or you were framed or whatever,
Right.
I'm sorry, but that's going to be on the police department. Like,
Yeah.
that's going to be on the. That's going to be it's so. I would just like to ask Ann Taylor questions like, there was all this discovery, right? But they were just focused on this stuff, right? They're
Right.
like, to build this case against Brian Clover, it's not that in depth. It truly isn't. All the stuff that would be the bulk of stuff is what was happening, in my opinion, all the way up until he was arrested, because then all they did was focus on him from that point, obviously. So I'm curious as to this voluminous discovery that they would have been speaking about in January when she actually received that first bulk. What's voluminous? What were they putting on this on this hard drive?
Right.
What were they piling on this thing? Were they purposely piling shit on that they knew was just because if I don't know, it just seemed like that's what was happening. It was like we know who we have, and then the moment that we have his name and what we're going to be doing, we need to just put all this other shit on there.
Yeah.
That we never even looked at, like a Daniel Vargas, Danny Vargas, the girl.
Yeah.
You just randomly went over to the 700 block, or you didn't even go there. You called up the woman who lived at this specific house and said, "Hey, do you still have your Nest camera?" "Oh yeah." "Can your husband see if he can give it to me?" "Okay, yeah, sure." What? Like, how does that even?
No.
Like,
Oh,
what? Why were you even thinking over there?
It doesn't make sense. None of that does. None of that. I have issues with a lot of that kind of stuff.
Somebody has to answer to that. Like,
right,
how many
right.
calls did you make? That's the only call. And then to find out, like, that's the only call that you made. And voila, wait, but the car that you actually have, that's your undercover cop car. I know it is. It's exactly what it would have been.
Absolutely. So, not to mention, there was no follow-up on any of this. Like, any of this stuff. Did you? I mean, I know you read through all the reports, like we all did. You know what I mean? And all 314 of those, anything that Brett Payne's name was on, there was no recorded phone. None of the interviews were recorded. They did no follow-ups. They did no nothing. Who's answering for all that?
Yeah, I don't even.
None of it. I mean, it was not an investigation. It was like kindergartners got together and did this. I mean, it's a joke. Every bit of that.
It's sad because it's listening to these guys talk after the fact too, and everybody's just admitting that we got to Brian Clover because of the DNA. And it's like, wait, how come you can just come out and say this right now when you were leading the courts to believe, like a guy like Hitler, for him to write in an order and say no, they partially got to him via the WSU queries. And I'm just like,
right.
That's prosecutorial misconduct. Like, you would be saying, like, no, that's not accurate. Like, oh, but then we would be coughing up the fact that we don't have probable cause then.
That's what they did. They didn't.
Doesn't make sense.
None of it does. I mean, it's all misconduct. I think there's judicial misconduct as well. Hitler, to me, was more part of the prosecution team than a judge. I mean, it's just if I had more time, we would break it down even more depth. But obvious. It's all obvious.
I'll come over on your channel later if you're gonna be. I'll pop.
I'm gonna go over because I was really I was really impressed with the Nye interview. That was interesting. We're gonna talk about that, and I mean, I'm sure it's all. I'm
about to call Ann Taylor right now, and I'm gonna say, do you have any comments after what Nye just put out there? That basically he said everything that you said in your argument, and but that's not what they put in their paperwork. And now they're okay with admitting what they did, but they wouldn't admit what they did during the trial, during the proceeding.
Bingo. And in that case, how did Hitler allow the plea to go through? Let me ask that question. Did he not read any of this? Did he not see any of this? For that case, or for, I'm sorry, in that instance, if he looked at any of this, he should not have allowed for that plea to go through, but he did. So that tells me he didn't look at anything, or he didn't care. So that's an issue for me. But yeah, I want to go over the Nye
Yeah, definitely go do it.
interview and talk about all that and some other stuff that has dropped, or not dropped, but just comes out through all of that stuff. Just interesting either way.
Okay. Well, thanks for popping up here. I'm gonna head off. Go ahead, start your live, and I'll be
Anytime.
over. I'll be over to support. But yeah, let me know. I'll pop over.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to pull these Pullman stuff, and then I have to make a couple phone calls.
Yeah. Sounds good.
I
Thanks
want
for
to talk to
having me.
Dollinger. I got things to talk to Dollinger about. This is ridiculous.
What do you think about him being in the position he's in at this point?
I don't think anybody wanted the job.
Yep. Bingo.
Nobody wanted the job, and I think, it's one of those things that, who wants to be. He came in 2024. I think that they had to take somebody that knew something of the case, because
the fallout he's got to deal with has got to be insane. It's got to be insane, and everybody else is leaving and quit and moved on. And what a joke! What a joke!
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you though. We'll be in touch.
All right, hon. I'll see you soon. Thanks for having me up here.
Oh, absolutely. All right, bye, babe.
Bye.
Go check it out if you want to continue to talk about the Idaho4 case. I'll be back this afternoon. So rock on until then, guys. This is craziness. We got to still finish out these reports. So, man. Okay. Bye. Over and out.